G'day and welcome to our exciting webinar on driving product success with a customer-centric approach for your expense or payment apps. We have an excellent program lined up for you. We're going to dive into the innovative concepts that will change your evaluation process for building or integrating a white-labeled solution for data extraction technology, which is also sometimes referred to as OCR. I'm honored to introduce our esteemed guest speaker, Tim Russo, the Senior Director of FinTech, Strategic and Channel Partnerships at Navan. Tim will provide exclusive insights into Navan's product development process for their groundbreaking app, Navan Expense, the world's first all-in-one mobile, first travel, corporate card, and expense management super app for businesses. This webinar is designed to equip you with the necessary tools to assess and evaluate the best data extraction technology for your app. Build your product through a user-centric lens and ultimately select the right technology partner to bring your product to the market quickly. So we're thrilled to have you with us, and we're confident that by the end of this session, you'll be empowered to take your product to the next level. So sit back, relax, and let's get started on this exciting journey together. Tim, over to you.
Wow, I hope I can live up to that introduction, Ernest. That was fantastic, and thank you. Looking forward to having a great conversation with everybody today. Please feel free to ask questions throughout the webinar, and we'll get to them as many as we can toward the end. A little bit about me. So again, my name is Tim Russo. I've been in the e-commerce space on the B2C and B2B side for almost 12 years now. Started out in payments at a small independent sales organization in Tinley Park, Illinois. Made my way to Apple for 5.5 years, spent a year at JP Chase, and now I've been at Navan for the past 9 months. Really focused in on partnerships and how those partnerships can lead to really great product innovation beyond just the initial signing of the contract. And looking forward to talking about how the relationship between Veryfi and Navan has evolved as our product and Veryfi's product has adapted to user needs, market needs, and finally technology needs. So with that being said, we'll jump into the agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about doing it yourself or doing a white label solution. That old build versus buy conversation that seems to be, it was a topic of conversation 5 years ago. It's a topic of conversation today. It's going to be a topic of conversation 5 years from now. It's always going to be a thing that we want to have a clear understanding and perspective on. We'll jump into the considerations you want to have when making those decisions, how to assess vendors, and you'll hear my perspective on the difference between a vendor and a partner and why it's so important to get to the latter. We'll talk high level about the product development journey at Navan and why it's not just about integration, but it's about an ongoing trustful relationship. And then finally, I'll walk everybody through an actual demo of our service. I'll scan a real live paper receipt, and I will also scan a hotel bill that's in GBP, so I can show how exactly the data extraction technology works and why it's so critical to our user experience. So let's just jump in. Ernest did an amazing job talking about Navan and who we are. It's important to know that we started out as a travel technology platform first. Our co-founders, Ariel Cohen and Alon Twig, basically looked at the environment and said, why can't business travel specifically be better? And so they worked together, created a company known as Trip Actions, which was a technology first corporate travel program, really focused in on user experience, the ability to book your travel, track your travel on a mobile first experience and then a web experience, combining things like AI, emerging data science, and modern user-friendly designs as compared to legacy technologies in this space. To that point, we've now expanded, obviously, and we'll talk about the expense platform, where we are the first mobile-first AI-powered travel corporate card and expense solution. And it's focused not just on end users, the business travelers, but also the CFO, the controller, the finance teams, the admins, and the travel platform. And part of the ability of the way that we're able to do that is through partnerships like with Veryfi. And we'll talk about why their technology, the data extraction technology later on in this webinar, is so important for things like reconciliation. And then more importantly, where does Veryfi sit within our tech stack? It's part of our expense app. We launched the first global end-to-end global corporate travel management and payments platform back in 2020. So right in the middle of COVID, but that was exactly the right time to launch this particular service, as the needs for expense changed overnight. Maybe there were less travelers on the road, but now we needed to cover things and build out an expense platform that covered the expense side of T&E for sending somebody or allowing somebody to purchase a home desk or home office, letting somebody or a team buy their Zoom software subscriptions. And we've now evolved that particular solution and the expense app combined with our travel app as part of our rebrand from Trip Actions to Navan in 2023. And one of the most technological forward pieces of that rebrand was combining both an individual travel app and an expense app into one super app. I'm a payments geek at heart, and so the concept of a super app is where the future continues to need to go, especially in the US marketplace. And the super app, again, with the backing of a company like Veryfi and the extraction technology, works because of the partnership that we have on the tech stack. So with that being said, let's jump into the build versus buy conversation. Do you want to do it yourself, or do you want to go and find a partner who knows what they're doing for you and figure out how that partnership is going to work if they're a white label solution? And I think, consistently when we think about build versus buy, it's evaluations. It's what are your resources at hand? What are your ultimate company goals? What are you trying to accomplish, and how fast are you trying to accomplish those needs? I think it's important to understand that when Navan was bringing a expense platform to market, we weren't going to put out a solution that didn't have some type of automated receipt capture and reconciliation and line item recognition tool into market. We weren't going to have something where you take a picture, but then the user has to go and manually line by line enter in their line items, like legacy and at this point almost outdated expense platforms were and are still in the marketplace. But to do that, we needed to understand what's the technology out in the environment, what's the technology we would need to be able to meet those very specific P0 type of goals, and then have the conversation: do we want to do it ourselves, or do we want to find a partner who specializes in this very particular area? And I think ultimately it was the latter. Right? If I think about doing it myself, it requires not just the people to build the product, but then the teams to maintain the product and continue to grow and develop and incrementalize that product to meet the current needs. So now you're talking about a higher cost associated with supporting your organization. You have to have an in-house team that when you're building that, combined with all the other priorities on your roadmap, you could be slow to market and potentially compromise a solution that you don't want to compromise on just to get it out there if you're doing it yourself. And then again, part of that incrementality is making sure that it's accurate. So what tools and technologies are you going to put behind that? So now not only are you investing in, if you do it yourself, for something like data extraction in the build with the engineers and the product teams, but then you need the data teams to run the data science models, because as you're putting in more information, you're putting in new receipts, you're putting in different languages or handwritten pieces, you need to adapt and build on that. So this becomes a large scale effort, which at the time and still to this day is not necessarily in Navan's wheelhouse. We're really great at software building the expense platform, but we recognize that in a partner like Veryfi, they were the experts and they were excellent at data extraction. They were able to get fast to market for us to meet our needs. It was accurate at the time and continues to be accurate as our customers' needs and as Navan's needs have changed, because it's backed by that AI-driven technology. They already had these pre-trained AI models in place, and there was no custom coding, which is really great when I think about if I'm going to integrate with a partner. I don't want to then have that tech lift and that tech debt be more than if I had just done it myself to begin with. And so it comes back again to these processes or these conceptions of how you evaluate that build versus buy. I'm definitely now in the camp, many years now into my career, that it's a build and buy world. Build the things that you're really good at, and then find the solution providers that are really good at the niche products, and then figure out ways to integrate them into your platform and focus on the things that matter most. For us, again, it was accuracy, it was speed, it was cost. We focused on our pain points immediately as creators and users. And again, if the pain point was we don't want somebody to have to take a picture of a receipt and then manually enter in all the line items, then we need a solution that will help not do that. And then we evaluate it through that lens. What's the best customer experience? And again, if you think about Navan's customers, it's the end user and it's also the admin. So not only does it have to be seamless for the end user, it has to be accurate for the admin, for the finance team, and for the accountants. And this goes back into that consideration, right? I think in the past, when we think about how companies would evaluate partnerships or vendors, sometimes it would be through an acquisition lens. Sometimes it would be through maybe a joint venture lens, but always from a business perspective. And that is a great way to consider partnerships. But I think when we think of fintechs and we think of where technology is going today, we want to be thinking about the product experience from the product manager's perspective, from the product developers, the product owner's perspective. But ultimately, it actually doesn't matter what the consideration or the lens is from the builder's perspective. You have to actually put yourself in your user's shoes and imagine how are they going to experience, how are they going to enjoy, or be surprised and delighted, to borrow a phrase, from a technology perspective. And so for us, it had to go beyond just the ability to scan a photo, whether it be through a photo or through a web app PDF upload. It had to be secure, right? So the data extraction with sensitive information, there is some relevant, truncated card data potentially. You may see a customer's information customer's name, depending on which part of the receipt or how long the receipt is. Even what people are buying could be considered sensitive information. So we had to know that secure method of data extraction was in a way still protecting our consumers' privacy and considering their security element to that. And Veryfi was able to make us feel confident that this data is just being used for line item extraction. It's essentially going to end up on your platform. We're just pulling and putting. It had to be fast, right? So if I think about how users experience, even just in that B2C world, everything should be, I push a button and within 200 milliseconds or faster, you get a response. As we have continued to evolve in our relationship with Veryfi, the speed at which these receipts are read and implemented and put into the platform continues to get faster and faster and faster. And we needed a partner that understood that need for speed. To again borrow a phrase, for all you Top Gun fans out there in the world today, it's not enough to just say, hey, we'll take a picture and then we'll go ahead and we'll do the data extraction 24 hours later and then it'll be uploaded. We don't want that anymore. We need it to be immediate. We need it to be fast, especially if, let's say, a customer uses their own credit card and they need to be reimbursed. But we need that data to be extracted. We need it to be put in the line item and we need it to be approved within seconds, so the end user knows that within 24 hours, they're going to be able to get a manual reimbursement from Navan. It also has to be accurate. So it can't just be fast, it has to be accurate. And we've talked about this already, but when I think about the admins, when I think about the finance departments, when I think about the accountants, there's nothing they love more than accuracy and speed. And it's almost been a Sisyphean journey to get those two things, right? You can be accurate and slow, or you could be fast and inaccurate in the past. And both of those would lead to a slowdown in closing the books, or redoing, various levels of travel and expense accounting and forgetting all my accountant terms today. I apologize, everybody. But essentially having to redo all of that work. And the most important message that was ever given to me by a former boss of mine at Apple was, don't make the finance people unhappy. If you can make the finance people happy, then he'd be able to go back and ask for new phones for us every year. And I've kind of kept that same methodology in my head. And I think Navan as a whole is what we drive towards. How do I make the CFO? How do we make the controller? How do we make the accountants happy with the results that we're providing to them? A lot of that is done at the reconciliation level, which again, if I think of how business travelers are out in the market today, taking pictures of their receipts, we can only provide that level of comfort and trust because of a partnership with Veryfi, who their data extraction is accurate and fast. It's free of errors. That allows us then to give that level of visibility and control back to the admins. And what I mean by that is, we predicate our entire solution on this idea that admins can control spend at the time of purchase. They can control spend at the time of the expense submission by the user. And by doing this, it makes more people comfortable with using an expense solution. They're not booking travel off of the platform. They're not using their personal card and then sending in manual reimbursements over and over again. Or even in an example that I heard today, I was talking to a leader at a company. He said, you know, if I have a $20 purchase, I just may not even submit the expense at all because I don't want to go through the hassle of submitting an expense. Well, that's not great, because now the accountants and the finance teams have no idea what is actually, from a T&E perspective, happening within their platforms. The whole purpose of being a business traveler is that you can go out and you can make these purchases, and then you should be able to submit and get your money back, or more preferably use the corporate card, which will take care of all of this for you. We can't offer that level of control and visibility on the Navan side unless we have, again, going back to the accuracy piece. We can't have it if we can't read a receipt clearly and provide that information. And we can't have, on the user experience side, on the traveler side, that I'm not going to submit a $20 receipt because it's just a waste of my time and I'm not going to go through the legacy, expense platforms. We want them to use our tool. We want them to use the technology. We want them to know that, oh, it's actually really cool when I take a picture, because that's it. The only thing that I have to do for my expense is I take a picture of my receipt, and then I'm done, because it's approved, because it's within the control and the control policies. And again, this is where having a partner like Veryfi as that data extraction piece, which is so crucial to doing and providing that level of trust up and down the line, is imperative. And finally, when we thought about our partnership, we had to be thinking about it 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the line at the time. And even now, I'm still thinking 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the line of where does the technology need to go? So in the time of the relationship that Navan and Veryfi's had, we've spent time improving VAT recognition, because we have travelers that are in Europe, and having that ability to reclaim VAT, or to make sure that the finance and accounting teams can recognize that VAT and submit those type of tax costs to their regulatory bodies is a P0 must have. And if that wasn't an initial skill set of Veryfi in the beginning, it is now improved remarkably so today in 2023. We also know that receipts aren't always going to have perfectly captured digital text on them. It could be that I just write in my tip with my really bad doctor's level handwriting, and we need to be able to pick that up, and so that we can see, was the tip within policy or was the tip in the percentage out of policy. But as we go into other parts of the world and we look at card usage, spend usage, not everything is going to be a digital receipt either. The amount of times that I've spent in Cologne, Germany, having a few Kolsch and having some Wiener Schnitzel and getting a handwritten receipt is pretty common. And so I have to be able to take that handwritten receipt that's also in German and be able to submit that as an expense. And so the language model and handwriting analysis adoption on the Veryfi side continues to evolve, continues to grow, because they recognize how important it is to support Navan's needs. And that goes into this concept of partnership versus a vendor. And that's what I'm talking about. It's easy to assess a vendors, to assess a vendor. We did this with Veryfi at the very start. Was Veryfi the best partner in the marketplace? Were they the fastest? Did they have the best tech stack? So we had to do an initial analysis. Now, we also wanted to go to market fast. So, we said, this seems right, let's go ahead and do it. And the relationship has been great. But we consistently go back and reassess our vendors. And we recently did last year when I first joined the company, we were reassessing our data extraction vendors. We went out into the marketplace and we did testing, and we did price comparisons, and we did the tech stack lift. And we continued to find that on the accuracy piece, Veryfi continued to outpace almost every single vendor, minus maybe one or two who claimed to be higher accuracy, but then their speed was slow, or there was a tech stack lift. So you have to kind of figure out those balances when you're assessing the vendors. And again, for us, the accuracy has been super high. The speed has been, lightning fast, and the tech stack lift has been minimal. That immediately puts Veryfi at a place above other potential vendors. And then again, as we talked about, handwriting, line item identification. This has become more and more an important call out from our clients, even if it's not necessarily a tax regulatory reason that you need line item identification, or even specifically policy. The ability to read the individual lines from a hotel invoice down to an individual receipt, and price those out and see what those particular items are and how they fit within specific policies. So if I buy a train ticket and a Coke and a sandwich, the Coke and the sandwich on the receipt should potentially go towards my per diem or my daily food expense, but the train ticket should go to the travel expense management side of the house. And then finally, language modeling. Again, for Navan, we are a global company. We have global travelers, we have global clients. So not every receipt is going to be in Western US English. And so even the differentiation between USD and GBP and understanding what that implication is, where the actual currency symbols are, the difference in commas versus periods, and then expanding that out into new languages, new language support. We're continually pushing Veryfi as a partner to be able to support Eastern languages. What does a Navan Veryfi experience look like for Japanese receipts when it's in yen? What does it look like for a Thai receipt with Thai baht, and et cetera? So that partnership allows us to challenge one another, to innovate, to align on that level of vision statement, which is imperative when you're trying to be the best, right? We want to be the best, and we are the best expense management, travel management, and corporate card program in the world. And Veryfi is the best OCR data extraction platform in the world. You have to be able to challenge each other to get to that place. And again, I've hit on this a lot, but it is so important. It's that seamless customer experience. Upload a receipt, your expenses are done. As long as they're in policy. I can't tell you, again, a conversation I had today with a potential partner who just mentioned that they spent 7 hours on Sunday doing their expenses with a legacy expense platform. And I think about how much time is actually worth to people. And I'm getting older. I'm 39 years old. When I was 25, time didn't mean anything. I'm 39. Time means everything now. And that ability to upload a receipt and your expenses are done, and you don't have to spend any time, whether it's your personal time on a Sunday or work time on a Tuesday doing your expenses, is extremely valuable. You can spend time with your kids, you can spend time with your dog, or you can spend time working on that PowerPoint presentation that you're already a week behind on delivering to your boss. That's a hypothetical, it's not a specific example. But to that point, that's how assessment of vendors should be. It shouldn't always just be the tech fits or the cost fits, or they have the ability to grow with us. It should be all of these things in a universal bucket, because otherwise you end up with individual solutions that maybe don't talk to one another, or when you do go back to a renegotiation period, you don't really have that connection to the vendor the way that you do with a partner when you look at the whole scale of solutions available. So that being said, I want to kind of talk about the product development journey that we've had with Veryfi here at Navan, because I think it's been illuminating. So we did the initial vendor assessment. We decided that we needed to go to market quickly. We needed to have a solution that could read receipts, that could help us do exactly what I've been talking about, which is no expenses. So we started with the initial integration, lift, and build with Veryfi, and it was quick, right? And I think that's, again, ultimately one of the things we wanted, which was like, it had to be easy, it had to be quick to integrate. But just because you're integrated doesn't mean you're done. And I think ultimately this is where the vendor selection part of the product development journey turned into the partnership development of the product development journey, and what has made the product continue to evolve and grow. We've had a dedicated account manager for almost the entirety of the time. In fact, our account manager right now is fantastic. It's a former colleague of mine, actually, from Apple as well, Irina. And more than anything, Irina, as an account manager, is transparent. She lets our team know what's going on. She has QBRs, which doesn't seem like that's part of the product development journey, but that's only if you look at the product development journey from a lens of we've integrated. I continue to say that we're still on the product development journey. So again, having that transparent, solid, very good account manager is the first step into an ongoing partnership. And from there, we have teams that are in real-time communication with one another on Slack. So as new models are being released, either in production accounts or in testing accounts, that back and forth between the two teams is clear, it's transparent. We know what's going on. We know when to expect the model to be released. We're able to test against it when needed. And if something happens, because no integration, no partnership is perfect, don't let any of the big dogs tell you any different. We find that Veryfi as a partner on the product development journey is transparent. They're open. They let us know what happens. We get an RCA almost immediately. And that's the level of trust that allows you to continue going on the journey. Not when I think about how that level of evolution in the product has come over the last 2.5 years or so, maybe a little less than that, that can only happen because we look at this as an actual partnership. So I'll take a step back a little bit from there. So as we integrated, we were able to do user testing. We were able to do testing with our own, within our own environment with our own users, and then do a slow rollout to our clients and get that feedback from our clients. And I think that again goes back to, you're always on a product development journey. Our clients are always the first to tell us when something doesn't work. And so we're then able to feedback that information to the Veryfi team to improvement, right? We talked about that elements of the improvements of the technology. The only reason we knew that was such an imperative request and ask to the Veryfi team is because we had clients using it and saying, hey, for this to take it to the next level, we need to have the ability to recognize VAT. When we're able to feed that information back, provide some more context, and immediately the Veryfi team was like, oh yeah, obviously that makes sense, right? And essentially started working on that. And we're now at a place where that level of extraction is top tier. But we'll continue to evolve and continue to grow as things like maybe GST becomes a requirement as we expand, or other levels of tax recognition that need to be identified and extracted. When I look at things again around handwriting, we didn't think that was the most important thing when we started this journey. But then clients came back and we came back and said, hey, like, how come we can't read my tip amount? How come you can't read this handwritten receipt? How come you can't read, some of the changes that are on there? And like, did somebody make a change on the receipt that they shouldn't have? All of that becomes extremely valuable data that has been able to be inputted into both the relationship, but then obviously into the technology. And with Veryfi's AI-driven approach to handling this type of data extraction, we're able to see faster results. We're able to see more accurate results, and we're able to train against that over and over again. So it becomes almost this self-fulfilling prophecy. Hey, here's what we need. Here's how we're going to get it. We're going to submit these receipts. We're going to get the data back. The model's going to get better. We're going to submit more receipts. We're going to get the data back, and the model's going to continue to grow and become better. And not every relationship is going to be like that. Not every vendor relationship will be like that, right? There are vendors that will just say, hey, here's our out-of-box solution. And every 6 months we'll release a model update, regardless of whatever you put into that. That's fine. That is fine for certain vendor partnerships. That may be all what you need. But again, when I think about the criticality of what Navan was trying to accomplish, again, if I think back to getting rid of receipts, making sure that all you have to do is take a picture and your expenses are done, you need a partner that's willing to go on that journey with you. And again, that is part of that product development cycle. We're in it today. There's new models being released, I think last week by the team. I'm looking forward to the new models 3 months from now. They're going to be even doing cooler things. And it goes back again to that trust of the vendor selection to the partnership journey is just as important to the product development journey. So with that being said, I'm going to do a really cool demo of the solution if everybody would like to see it. Again, I'm going to do an actual demo that shows me taking a picture of an actual hard copy of a receipt from some items that I purchased today at the conference that I'm at. And then I'm also going to do a demo of taking a picture of a hotel invoice or hotel bill that I had from London a few weeks ago. So we can see the difference in it and the different ways that it approaches the service. So I'm going to unshare my screen and I'll start the live demo on my phone. Share screen. Perfect. So I'm going to share the Navan app with everybody. This is our new super app that combines both the travel and expense management platform. And we'll focus today just on the expense management piece. So this is where I would have to do all of my expenses if I had to do them. As you can see, this page is really clean. It actually has my virtual card on there if I need it. If I needed a purchase card, there's access to it. And it also shows my manual transactions or all of my transactions. You'll notice that in the 9.5 months and all the business travel I've done, I've only had to do 5 actual manual transactions, which is wild. And most of my other transactions, because of the relationship and the technology from Veryfi, have just been, you know, easy to go through, reading the receipts, reading the hotel folios, and I'm done. So we're going to show everybody how that works today. So I'm going to scan a receipt, and I have this wonderful Sundries Express item here. We're going to take the picture. We're going to use the photo. And we like to make people laugh while it's scanning. So what do frogs do with paper? They rip it. And then how do locomotives know where they're going? Lots of training. Oh, look at that. 2 jokes and we're done. 2 dad jokes and we're done. Again, for somebody that has used legacy expense platforms in the past, this to me is probably the most remarkable piece of the technology and the relationship. It was able to read the merchant, so Sundries Express, which is not a common merchant. It's not like it just guessed or used the technology to say, hey, this looks like a Starbucks receipt, so we're just going to write Starbucks in there. Like, this is a very uncommon named merchant within the hotel that I'm at. It exactly read the date of the transaction. So today, it filled in exactly what trip I'm on. So I'm at a conference in Las Vegas. It's the FinTech Meetup conference. Already filled in like where I'm at and why. So therefore, this is already approved and whatnot. It's traveling other. So the items that I purchased for this particular experiment, they know that it's not part of my per diem or my food purchases. So it's not going to deduct that from my daily costs. And it has my total amount in there. If I wanted to, I could add anything else. If there were additional participants, if this was a dinner receipt, I could manually add some of those participants, or because of the integration into our calendar integrations, if there's an invite out there that has all of the dinner recipients, it will automatically fill those in there. And if I had to write a justification, or if I had to submit the receipt and I had to write something, I could say, hey, Nick, you know, our controller, this was a receipt purchase for an expense, you know, a verification webinar, and let him know, and it would go through and it would be perfect. And you can see the receipts very well done, really clean, perfectly read, but it also didn't read any of the extraneous information. There's nothing in my expenses about the terminal. It doesn't include the employee information. It doesn't include the transaction information. It just includes the need to know information to submit a receipt. And then I would be able to just press submit if I needed to, and I would be done, and I would be done. I wouldn't have to do anything else on my own. Wonderful. Again, this is the technology that Veryfi has in the back end. That AI-driven technology is reading the receipt, pulling out the important stuff, and populating it in this line item level required details for us. So love that. And now I'm going to show you the hotel bill. Hotel bills are different in the sense that you not only, you know, depending on, you know, the type of hotel bill you have to show the total amount, but you do have to itemize them typically, usually by a daily rate, so your expense team can read off of that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to scan this hotel bill. This is from a recent trip of mine. And you can see I'm actually scanning it off my computer, and I'm doing this intentionally. Not every technology, data extraction technology, can read cleanly off a computer screen due to, you know, pixel issues, or you know, maybe my screen is fuzzy and I can't really clean up behind it or whatnot. So I could upload this to the web app if I wanted to, but I'm always on my phone, always integrating it. Look at that, already populated it. It says the data transaction was in March. It said exactly what my trip was. It shows the total amount of 1,196 pounds, but then it also shows a conversion for me, which is fantastic, so that I can actually see, like, what does that conversion number look like. And then if I go to the itemization, and this is really what I want to kind of show everybody, it actually shows you per day the itemization amount, so accommodation. And because this is the UK or this is Europe, obviously the tax is already included in the total amount. But if I needed to my US hotel receipt, if I wanted to do like my Vegas receipt at the end of this week, it'll break down the daily rates, the Vegas tax rate, the resort fee rate, and that'll all be, you know, identified and shown, so that again at the end of the month or the end of the week or the end of the year, when your travel and expense accounting and finance teams go and do the reconciliation, this is what allows them to do it faster, to do it more accurate, to do it at speed. Which again makes them happy, which goes back to my original hypothesis that was, you know, said to me years ago, which is don't upset your finance teams. And Veryfi allows me to not upset my finance teams. So super excited. This is, really cool technology, and it continues to evolve. It continues to get better as our needs grow. And I'm going to stop sharing my phone. And I'm going to reshare my screen. And again, if you think about how the technology is integrated into our platform, it's all back end, right? The end user just assumes that this is all just part of the normal expense process, which is also really great. We're not punting anybody out to a different platform to use. You're not pushing them to a different photo capture app that then has to then do-si-do them back into the expense app. And if you don't do the do-si-do right, which by the way is an official Apple term for going back and forth between apples or between apps, in case anybody was wondering, then the system breaks, right? But because we keep everything in the same app, in the same super app, and we make sure that people get their actual expenses line item done and completed, it allows for that the user experience where they want to use the program, which then means that they're using their cards or they're actually submitting their expenses, which again goes back to making the expense and finance and the accounting teams happy. So we're doing all of this, and Navan is able to do all of this because of the partnership and the technology that we have with Veryfi. So with that being said, I think I'm going to hand it over to Ernest to kind of wrap us up here, and then we'll open it up to Q&A to the audience.
Thanks, Tim. Wow, that was phenomenal. Love the demo as well. Thank you. I'm not gonna waffle on for too long, so I'll just quickly, I've only got 3 slides to sort of cover, but I did hear you say, Tim, earlier, Japan. And I remembered I was in Japan in December on the business trip, and I was doing a few demos, and I went around, bought different things, and I ended up going also, my kids wanted all these Japanese toys, so I had a really, really long receipt. It was Pokemon toys. It was just crazy long. I actually have a video, we have a video of it on the Veryfi YouTube channel. So if anyone wants to watch it, you can check it out. But I did a demo with that receipt, and everything was in Japanese. I don't speak Japanese. I don't write in Japanese. So I was thinking to myself, like, if I had to itemize the whole, long Japanese receipt, I don't know how long it would take me, right? Even if it was in English, it would probably take me at least 25 minutes. But in Japanese, probably a few hours. So, I use the Veryfi demo Lens app. So we have camera technology for, your mobile apps, and it essentially stitches that long receipt. And so I stitched it, sent it to Veryfi API, and then within like 3 seconds, everything was itemized. And, you sort of start to really appreciate the power of, the technology when you've got a lot of items that need to be itemized, especially if you're running policies, right? Because we all travel in a modern era. I think, I believe that any app that's on the App Store is by default international. So people will use it internationally, right? Even though it might be primary focused for your home country, you will always travel if it's an expense app, right? You're going to be using those products overseas, different languages. And, that's one of the key areas that we focused on, is to make sure that whatever we build, right, it's got worldwide language model in place, because that is really, really powerful for any expense product that's out there. The other thing that we also focused on, and Tim, you mentioned it as well, this easy integration, being able to integrate with as few lines of code as possible. Because, let's face it, right? Like, no one likes to, spend months integrating anything, or, waiting to build something themselves and then realize that it's not what they wanted. Sorry, Tim, can you just go back to the other, oops. So time to value is super important for anyone. It's not just for us, but I truly believe that any product manager, any engineer that's, building any modern products like Navan, focuses on time to value. You want to be able to launch that product today, right? Or tomorrow, and then see that value realized from your customers being happy, and also just the feedback you get overall to improve the product as time goes on. One last thing on this slide is, if you're thinking about, security, so Veryfi is extremely secure. We do not use humans anywhere in the loop. This is 100% machines. We're SOC 2 Type 2 certified. So if you're a large company, we're with you there, right? We'll give you all of our certifications, so you can actually see how we treat data, and also the process around it internally. We're GDPR compliant. We have infrastructure in Europe. So again, if you're an international company, rest assured that that data is not going offshore. It's being processed locally. And then if you're a healthcare company, HIPAA compliance, obviously a very, very big deal. And then in Q2 this year, we plan to be FedRAMP certified. So if you're doing any work with the government, we've got you covered. Let's go to the next slide, Tim, please. So this is sort of a bit more tacky, but again, it sort of shows you that it doesn't take many lines of code to integrate the Veryfi APIs. You'll see that we also built out support for all of the common languages. So we've got SDKs for Python, C#, Node, and so forth. All of this is available on Veryfi's GitHub account. So again, this really, really simplifies the whole development process. So your development team can spend more time, solving problems than trying to code, long lines of solutions, right? And as you can see, it's about 5 lines of code once you get the SDK embedded. So again, time to value is super duper fast. Next slide, Tim. And then mobile framework. So most folks, most expense apps actually have, mobile apps, and we've got the whole camera technology all basically bundled. It's one framework which you can embed in your own mobile app, and essentially it gives your customers the whole interface of capturing and extracting data with basically just one click. What you're looking at here is, we've also accounted for that there's different frameworks, cross-platform mobile language, language frameworks that are out there, which some companies developing, like React, Flutter, and so forth. So we've got you covered. You'll be able to integrate Veryfi's native framework using your choice of, language that you built your mobile app in. And again, no more than 5 lines of code to instantiate the product, and it's done. It's that simple. So that's pretty much it from my side. And now we're going to open it up to Q&A. Please, right at the bottom of the Zoom interface, you'll see a little Q&A button. So I see there's a bunch of questions there already, but feel free to ask Tim or myself anything that's sort of on your mind that you would like to know more about. All right, let's have a look. Wow, we've got a bunch of a nice set of questions here. All right, let's go from the top. So this question looks like it's for Tim. Have you received any feedback from customers regarding data extraction accuracy?
Yeah, we have a really strong account management, customer success management team, and we built the relationship with our clients similar to what I've described as the relationship today with Veryfi, which is we want their feedback. And so, yeah, when it works, we get the positive feedback. But like everything, when it doesn't work, they're the first ones to tell us, like, hey, it didn't read this, it read my handwriting wrong, I read the merchant name wrong. And what's great is we're able to facilitate and send that information right back to Veryfi and give them that contextual data of like, here's what happened, here's the receipt where it happened in, here's the transaction ID. They can look it up on their code base and say, oh yeah, you're right. Like we didn't read this correctly. Let's go ahead and make the adjustment or use this as additional data sets for whatever refresh of the model that y'all are using. And I think that because we have that trust built in with our clients and we accept that type of feedback, it then creates a really nice flywheel of technology improvement.
Here's a really good one. I love this one. How did customers react to not having to enter expense data? And then followed by, was there a change in customer satisfaction or user adoption?
I don't think customers believe us when we initially show them exactly how this works. I think that they're so used to these legacy expense platforms that are built on legacy technology that require so much manual effort that when we say things like, no, like we'll get rid of all of that, they don't believe us. And then we do the demos, and then we put the cards in hand, and then we show them, and it's like magic, right? We talk about how we're really, really great at being a travel company. Like what we do there is amazing and awesome and tech forward. And what we're able to do in expense is literally described as magic. And I think in the tech world, having something that is magic is a true differentiator. And again, as every great magician knows, the trick behind that is the partnerships that you have to basically do that level of product advancement. So.
Nice. And I'm sure that also nicely correlates with good feedback on Capterra, G2, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's positive feedback in all the traditional places. And again, having that level of relationship with our customers, they'll tell us when they're not happy, and so we try and do everything we can to make them happy. We also we're so confident in our product and our relationships because of the partnerships behind them that we also don't require our clients to stay with us if they're not happy, right? We want people to stay with us because the product works, because it works the way that they need it to work. And I think that level of trust, by not locking people into contracts that they're not happy with, which is very unusual in this space, allows us to score highly in all of these, natural, like these industry level scoring mechanisms like a G2 and others.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I was looking at your Trip Actions app on the App Store, and you guys have like outstanding reviews, which is always great to see, right? People are very vocal, right? They either really, really love your product or they really, really hate it. There's nothing in between. But I mean, you guys have outstanding rankings, and I'm sure if anyone's searching for an expense product, you guys will obviously bubble up right up to the top because of the great reviews.
Yeah, and we got exciting new technology and exciting new product advancements coming down the line over the next 6 months or so, 6 to 8 months, and Veryfi is part of that journey as well. So we're going to hopefully continue to have those same reviews. And also, listen, I'm a big believer in the bad reviews are just as important. If you're telling me something doesn't work for a reason, then great. I need to know about that so we can feed that information back to the right teams and get a better review the next time somebody uses the product.
No, definitely. Customer feedback is super important, improving any product. So I definitely agree with you there. We jump into a few other questions. This one's from Kudzanani. Does Navan integrate with QuickBooks Online?
We do. We have ERP integrations with QBO, NetSuite. We're building out our Xero integration. We also have Open API for an expense piece, but we are in the QBO App Store. And it can be found in that. Donnie, if you need any help, please feel free to email me. I think contact information is at the end of this slide, but if not, trusso@navan.com, and we can get you connected to that.
Nice, thank you. All right, here's another question. What's next? What new features are coming for the use case?
There's things I can say and things I can't say. I think, ultimately it continues to be, in this particular use case, continued global improvement. Like, again, I think about where my travelers are going to be and where they're going. We recently had a client sign up where they had travelers in Nairobi. And so we had to get these 2 travelers approved, get this company approved, and then get the virtual cards out to these 2 customers in Nairobi. Well, now my question becomes okay, I've been saying this for years, but Africa is such an untapped source of future development from an e-commerce perspective, from a B2B perspective. How do we support that part of the world? How do we make sure that this technology is able to support whether it's people in Nairobi, Cape Town, Joburg, all the way up into Kenya or elsewhere, where we are going to have, again, continued differences from a cultural perspective, from a currency perspective, and making sure that we're providing the same level of expertise. So for me, it's globalization of the service and the product, and meeting people where they're at, which is a true egalitarian view of the world from my perspective. But that's where I'd like even with Veryfi for us to be.
Nice. Here's another question. there has been more and more expense management companies starting to emerge. How does Navan plan to differentiate themselves from the competition?
I think the way that we today differentiate ourselves from the competition still continues to be like a huge piece, which is an expense platform is a way to track expenses, which totally makes sense. But when you look at like the full scope of in a finance team's COGS, it's T&E, right? And so having the only fully integrated travel platform, expense platform, card program that we control the whole experience, it allows us to tie together all of that. So the policy controls we can put in place on travel, then implement or are tied to the policy controls that we have on expense and the corporate card. And so you're getting people to use the card, you're getting people to travel on the platform, you're able to track all of that from a reconciliation standpoint. I mean, even something like the fact that we have virtual cards that we distribute to each individual traveler, if you're using Navan Expense Travel, allows for faster reconciliation rather than just using a straight lodge card, which is a one-to-many solution. It's a great solution, but if you really want to get faster, better, quicker, having that individual V card allows you to get to those places. Now we're going to continue expanding the scope of our success. I think right now the biggest one is, and we've been very forward thinking about this, is utilizing ChatGPT and OpenAI. You know, ChatGPT 4 was just released, which is light years ahead of ChatGPT 3, which felt like that was just released. And so I'm excited for ChatGPT 5. How can we make the user experience as they're trying to change their flights on the fly? How can we offer better suggestions of places to go, places to see, places to eat as part of our app, which will then improve the super app functionality of our experience? I think that's the great unknown right now. And thankfully, we have such a great leadership team that's investing the time, energy, and the R&D into it. Is going to be, like, I think, a pretty significant differentiator for us moving forward.
I like the idea of where should I eat? Because, like, you know, I remember when I was, again, back to the Japanese example, when I was in Tokyo, it's like, where do I eat? I know there's a lot of great food everywhere, but it would have been nice if, you know, I would be able to find, you know, something that's reasonably priced, right? And that's also something within what I'm going to enjoy based on my previous spending habit data, right? And I guess that's where the line item data really helps, because you've got that historical data, and now you can ask your, you know, Navan app, like, where should I eat? It already knows that, right? Because of the historical data. I mean, that's just so powerful. Can't wait for that feature, Tim.
Again, I don't know when it's coming. I'm just pointing out the event, like how ChatGPT and that type of iterative language modeling is going to change everything. And if, you know, Alon is driving that, which is, like, if you want one person in the world driving that type of innovation, it's Alon Twig.
Right. No, definitely. And that sort of leads to the next question. We've been talking a bit about data. What does Navan do with the expense data, and is it used for any innovative features?
This is a really good question, and it's a tricky one, right? Because it is still data, and you still want to put controls around it. And then, you know, we're not marketing without the data. We're not, you know, nobody gets to, in the marketing team or the PR teams, get to use necessarily that data for, you know, ill-advised marketing, you know, decisions or campaigns, which other companies can sometimes go through. I think like everything, it's behavioral. How are people using the platform? How are people expensing on the platform? How successful are they with submitting their receipts? How fast are they getting through? I think for us, that's how we look at it. That's how I look at data. After spending years in fraud, like, individual data pieces are fine and interesting, but if I can see what the customer's behavior is going to be and how to improve that, in this particular case, again, that user experience, that's ultimately where the data is the most valuable. So I can get somebody in and out as quickly as possible, so they come back because they're like, oh, that was so easy. That was the easiest thing in the world for me to do. And that's ultimately what the data should be designed to be and used for.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with that. And it sort of reminds me of the loyalty space. You know, many years ago, I used to work for coupon.com, and so I know a bit about CPG loyalty space. And obviously they use, you know, brands will use data to sort of get a better understanding of your, you know, what you do, what you buy on a regular basis, so they can more accurately present you with better programs, like loyalty programs, right? So data plays, I think, you know, an important role, especially data like this, right? which really sort of tells a lot about your behavior. So you can then provide services which are in line with expectation. Because, sometimes, you see other companies using things like, anonymous data, like, that might come from some sort of browsing behavior. But sometimes browsing behavior could be also misleading, because maybe it was your, someone from your household browsing on your computer with your account. So that's probably not the best use of data. But getting data from like folios, what you've ate from your expenses, just becomes such a powerful medium in providing very accurate and robust, predictions or advice to the end user. I'm sure you've heard this before. Data's gold, and the right type of data is obviously, I would probably say the right type of data is gold, not just any data.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
So let's jump into another question. Wow, there's a lot of questions here. How long did the integration process take with Veryfi?
Yeah, it was quick, right? We talked about and I think that ultimately goes back to something you talked about with like it's 5 lines of code or less. So the integration process is always quick. And again, this goes back to my earlier point about the product development journey. Like the product development journey is ongoing. So we integrate it, but now we're trying to iterate and evolve the product as customers need and as clients need to evolve and iterate as well. So we wouldn't have selected Veryfi if the integration wouldn't have been quick, and we continue to value the partnership because of, again, how easy those technical lifts have continued to be.
Nice. Let's jump into another one here. What's the most important advice you have for other companies looking to build their own expense or payment products, apps?
Don't build for now. Moore's law I don't know if anybody's familiar with Moore's law, but it's an old computer science, computer technology law that basically is like, hey, the technology is always advancing so fast that within 6 months it's already outdated. Well, I think Moore's law is already a victim of Moore's law now in 2023. So again, I ultimately go back to what I said before, which is like you want to build things to where people are. You want to meet the people where they're at. And where they're going. So in the payment space, like you have to understand like what the world is doing and what the global consumer does and uses and how they expect payments to be. Not everybody uses credit cards, right? In Mexico, you have OXXO, which is basically digitizing cash at a local convenience store. Japan's been doing that forever with Conveni. Okay, well, how do you build to that from an expense and payments platform perspective, right? You have to go and you have to see it, you have to experience it. And maybe that's ultimately what I want to kind of throw there, which is you can't build a global solution, which is what these solutions should inherently be. And I think Ernest, you kind of said that, which is like if it's in an app store, it's a global solution. You can't build a global solution unless you're a global citizen. Otherwise, you end up building a tool that works really, really well in Palo Alto and does not work at all in Bangkok. And that's a problem. So be a global citizen and go out and see how the rest of the world works, how users interact with technology from a B2B and B2C space, and then build to that.
I totally agree with you. Wow. I think we can end it on that. That's just really powerful. And this was great, Tim. Look, thank you very much for such a great presentation. And there was many great questions, which I really enjoyed this myself. Like just seeing all the great questions from everyone that joined us. So thank you everyone for joining us. And again, Tim, thank you. Until next time, folks, thank you very much and have a good day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.